Hey, have you heard of the Marshmallow Experiment? You know, that famous experiment where researchers tested kids and their willpower and ability to delay gratification. We're going to look at one key insight from the marshmallow study that is going to be really important for you and I as we pursue good health, something you can use right away. Hey, I am Dr. Topher Fox, endocrinologist in Superior, Colorado. And if you haven't heard of it, in the Marshmallow Experiment, it's pretty famous. Early 1970s, researchers at Stanford University brought kids into a room, and essentially the researcher would show the kid a marshmallow and say, you can eat this marshmallow right now, but if you can wait for 15 minutes, you can have 2 marshmallows. And then in something that seems almost cruel, they would leave the marshmallow on the desk and the researcher would leave the room and the kid would be left there facing temptation, trying to resist it so that they could have that second marshmallow. And if you haven't ever looked, there are some great videos on YouTube of some of these kids as they are trying to resist temptation. Check that out in your spare time. But here's the insight that I want to share with you today. In a version of this experiment, so the punchline for this experiment was most kids could not resist the temptation. But the ones that could, they found were more successful in later life. They were academically more prepared, academically more successful. They went on to better careers. That the ability to delay gratification predicted a lot of things. But here's the insight I want to look at today. In one version of the experiment, rather than leaving the marshmallow on the desk, the researchers put it out of sight. So they would leave it on the desk, but cover it with a tin. And in that version, essentially what happened was the average kid could only last 6 minutes when the marshmallow was on the desk. But when it was covered up, they were able to go 9 minutes. The average went up to 9 minutes. And so this idea, and this is what I want us to use now. This idea is that when we can protect our line of sight, when something's not immediately visible, it becomes less tempting. And so we can use this. You know, Habits author, or just author, Gretchen Rubin, writes in her Habits book about the strategies of convenience and inconvenience. And we can use this. So the strategy of inconvenience basically says we want to scan our environment, look for temptation, and try to make it more inconvenient. For me, I think about protecting line of sight. So my daughter and my wife both love to bake. My daughter loves to bake desserts. And often she will bake a batch of cookies and they will be left out on the counter. And I know in my own life it's very difficult for me to resist the cookies when they are out on the counter. But the simple act of noticing that I'm being tempted by the cookies and then taking and putting them in a bag and putting the cookies in the cabinet or into the freezer out of my line of sight dramatically lowers the risk of temptation. Right? For you, you may have things in your environment that if you have kids or a spouse, sometimes you can't get rid of them altogether. You can't throw them away or keep them from coming in the house. But you can look to protect your line of sight and say, can I take temptation out of visible range? For me, that's the counter and pretty much eye level or in the refrigerator, easily visible. If I can keep temptation out of those places, it becomes much more easy to follow through on my good intentions. Now on the flip side, strategy of inconvenience, there is a strategy of convenience, which says we can try to put good stuff there. We can try to put things in our environment in visual sight range, at eye level in the refrigerator. So for me, baby carrots, sugar snap peas, things that I want to consume more of or would be healthier options, we can try to make those more convenient. But that's for another day. So for today, what I encourage all of us to do, here's the ask for you, is can you scan your environment? Can you scan your environment? Can you find those things that are tempting, right? So again, counter, eye level in the fridge. It might be easily seen when you open the pantry. You know, another great example for us, Halloween candy doesn't live in the main kitchen area. When we buy Halloween candy for trick-or-treaters, that has to go into, it goes into the laundry room, kind of in this cabinet behind the crock pot, somewhere that you really have to work to try and get it. So can you scan your environment? Can you find temptation, and can you make that temptation more inconvenient? I encourage you to do that, and if you do, you'll find that you level up the results for your ability to follow through on your good intentions dramatically. So as we wrap up today, I would just conclude by saying, hey, if you like training like this, and if you are a woman 50 plus who's been diagnosed with prediabetes, we have a program that is built just for you. It teaches you how to be the hero in your own life using principles of healthy lifestyle, nutrition, movement, sleep, how to picture what that looks like, and then how to follow through consistently, how to build a system to follow through consistently on your good intentions. So I encourage you to check that out, drtopherfox.com/membership. You can click on the link up above to check out those details. First month, you can get started for $1, so you can check it out for basically no risk. Anyway, I thank you for listening. Wish you peace. Take care.